Hi, this is Bill Carmody with a review of the Neapolitan 6 chords. There's just one term to learn in this chapter, the Neapolitan 6 or N6 chord. For your information, no one really knows why it's called a Neapolitan chord. Some say that the name comes from the Neapolitan school of Baroque Italian opera composers, which included Scarlatti and Pergolesi, who included this chord in their compositions, but it can be found even earlier in the 18th century. The characteristic resolution of a Neapolitan 6 chord is for the root to resolve down a diminished third to the third of a 5 chord. It's a predominant chord. It has the effect of a Phrygian leading tone, which resolves down a half step, going to a leading tone, which resolves up a half step, and finally resolving to the tonic. Here the A flat, a half step above the tonic G, goes to an F sharp, a half step below the tonic G, and then finally resolving to the tonic G. And that A flat to F sharp is a diminished third. Here's what it sounds like. In this example, the D, which is a half step above the tonic C sharp, goes to the B sharp, a half step below the tonic, and finally resolves to the C sharp. Another example of the root of the Neapolitan chord going down a diminished third to the third of the dominant chord. Here the Neapolitan 6 is followed by another predominant chord, the 7 diminished 7 of 5, and then finally to the dominant. In the Baroque, the Neapolitan 6 was used as a substitute for a 2/6 near a cadence point.
Desgleichen schmähten ihn auch die Mörder, die mit ihm gekreuziget waren.
In this case, a Neapolitan 6 is used as part of a descending non-functional harmonic sequence series. Neapolitan 6 is kind of a subtle chord, so it does not stick out. Composers began using the Neapolitan chord in a variety of ways. In this example, it is in root position and functions as a passing chord, a 1-6 to an N to a 5-7 of 4, that does not lead to the dominant.
Bleicher Geselle, was äffst du nach mein Liebesleid, das mich gequält auf dieser Stelle? So manche Nacht in alter Zeit.
You can add a secondary dominant or leading tone before any chord, including a Neapolitan 6. In this case, we have a 5 of N, followed by the Neapolitan 6, and a 7 of N, followed by a Neapolitan 6. Don't feel bad if you can't hear that. It's very subtle. The root, which is a half step above the tonic, drops to the leading tone, which is a half step below the tonic, somewhat like a changing tone pattern. When the Neapolitan 6 is followed by a 1-6-4, avoid parallel fifths. You can do that by inverting the parts because parallel fourths are okay, as an example D. Parallel fourths over here, avoid parallel fifths. The Neapolitan 6 chord is particularly common in minor keys. As a simple alteration of the subdominant triad, lowercase 4, of the minor mode, it provides a contrast as a major chord compared to the minor subdominant or the diminished supertonic triad. The most common variation of the Neapolitan chord is a Neapolitan major seventh, which adds a major seventh to the chord. This major seventh also happens to be the tonic. The flattened major supertonic chord is sometimes used in root position, in which case there may be even more concessions regarding consecutive fifths. In very rare cases, the chord occurs in second inversion, for example in Haydn's Messiah, in the aria Rejoice Greatly. Here the blue circles point out a Neapolitan 6 type voice leading, where the dominant Phrygian leading tone goes to the dominant leading tone and then to the dominant, the A flat to the F sharp, and then to the G. A common use of the Neapolitan chord is in tonicizations and modulations to different keys. It is the most common means of modulating down a half step, which is usually done by using the one chord in a major key as a Neapolitan chord or a flatted major supertonic chord in the new key, a half step below the original. Since the Neapolitan 6 is a major triad, by adding a minor seventh, it becomes a dominant seventh chord, which is also useful in tonicization and modulations as well. There are more examples in the Music Solutions book. For the quiz, you should be able to define the Neapolitan 6 and its functions, including inversions and voice leadings. You should also be able to identify and analyze it in harmonic progressions, as well as use it appropriately in an original composition. And that's the Neapolitan 6 chord. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.